Hello, and welcome to my channel, my political channel. As you may have already guessed, this is an unscripted video. For the primary election, I filled out my ballot on camera. And I'm going to do that again. Right now I'm grabbing a hard book to put my ballot on here for the general election. So, in the envelope that is sent by the county clerk, there is, of course, the ballot, a list of official write-in candidates from the Secretary of State, and the letters to send the ballot back. And I said "and" before I should have, but instructions on filling out the ballot. The reason I waited until mid-October for this, even though I got it closer to the beginning of the month or end of last month, is because I did want to at least look at the debates. And so far we've had the first presidential debate, the vice presidential debate, and President Donald Trump pulling out of the second presidential debate due to it being virtual. I do know that before the Commission on Presidential Debates was created, that the League of Women Voters was the sponsor for presidential debates. In the election when it was Carter versus Reagan, there was an independent that was also running. And the League of Women Voters invited the independent, Carter, and Reagan all to debate each other. But Carter refused because of the independent's inclusion. As a result, the League of Women Voters set up 3 chairs and held the debate without Carter to show that he was being petty. They should do something similar for this instance of Donald Trump pulling out of the second debate. They should hold a virtual debate, and if Donald Trump doesn't show up, Biden gets a free hour and a half to talk his policies. It's Donald Trump's choice not to show up. That doesn't mean he gets to steal free media from Joe Biden. Simply put. Which that should have gone into the next political news opinion video, but it's important. So it's going into this video as well. Anyways, for now I'm actually going to skip the presidential choice on the ballot because I'm still kind of deciding between a candidate and an official write-in candidate. Neither of which are Joe Biden, I will tell you that much. Simply because I want to vote my values, and even though I had said that I would compromise them in order to vote for Joe Biden to get Donald Trump out of office, after that first debate, I'm not doing that because the truest thing that was said was, "Will you just shut up, man?" Which Biden said, but it was true that Biden needed to shut up, Trump needed to shut up, and the moderator, Chris Wallace, all needed to just shut up. That's how bad the debate was. So there's no way that I'm still voting for that ticket. But anyways, moving on. U.S. Senator is the next one on the list, which is Shelley Moore Capito, the incumbent Republican from Charleston, Paula Jean Swearengin, who is the Democrat from Sophia, and David Morin, who is the Libertarian from some place in Preston County. I cannot pronounce the city or town he's from, unfortunately. For this, I will be voting Paula Jean Swearengin. I voted for her in the primary election, and generally, I just agree with her on lots and lots of policies. And so I want her to be a senator. So that is my first vote. And also, I do not believe that Shelley Moore Capito is a great senator herself, since she is the incumbent, and I should probably mention why I don't like incumbents. Well, for starters, she's a member of a political dynasty, much like her co-senator Joe Manchin is, but Shelley Moore Capito, of course, is the daughter of Governor Arch Moore. And I don't like that she benefits from the Moore name, for one, and while I do not believe that parents' wrongdoings should have any effect on perception of their children, she uses her father, Arch Moore, as an asset rather than a liability when he was convicted for various corruption charges and therefore should be a liability to her, not an asset. Or even just neutral. He should probably be neutral, would be a liability if everything was correct, but should be neutral, and she's somehow using him as an asset. So that's why she should not be allowed to be a U.S. Senator. If she's going to use a corrupt official as her ideal, then she's obviously corrupt. On the topic of political dynasties, Bernie Sanders is one of my favorite politicians, as you know. His children have run for political office. However, he has refused to endorse them or provide them any kind of support because he does not like political dynasties. That is how a political dynasty should work. Not helping each other and refusing to endorse each other without you earning it. Family's family, but that doesn't mean family should consolidate power in a democratic society. The next one is the House of Representatives, 3rd Congressional District, which we have Carol Miller, the Republican from Huntington, and Hillary Turner, the Democrat from Huntington. I'm going to be voting for Hillary Turner. I supported her during the primary election. I can't remember if I actually voted for her, but I definitely supported her because there were 2 progressives in the Democratic primary that I would have been happy supporting here in the general election. With that being Lacey Watson, who unfortunately declared victory before the final results were in. So, now national political things will show Carol Miller versus Lacey Watson, when in reality it's Carol Miller versus Hillary Turner. But putting that aside, he still would have been a great candidate, and he actually would have been the first black man to be nominated and hopefully also seated. But like I said, I'm going to be voting for Hillary Turner. Carol Miller, I did not support her in 2018 whenever she won her seat. I would have preferred Mr. Richard Ojeda to have won the seat. Miss Miller has a tendency to be anti-transparent and also avoid constituents altogether, unfortunately. And she was also among the Republicans that crashed one of the impeachment hearings in clear violation of committee rules, and nonsensically, as she already had access to the hearings, she just simply decided to do so breaking protocol in a protest where Republicans that already had access to the hearings decided to break protocol to prove a non-existent point that they were being locked out of the hearings when all of, 90% of the Republicans that participated in that protest already had access. So she nonsensically protested in a way that really disappointed me, and I should message elected officials more often. I don't, unfortunately, do it too often, but that definitely earned her an email kindly explaining why she should never do that again. But anyways, I'm voting for her opponent. Let's see. The next thing would be governor. Okay, so on the ballot are Republican Jim Justice, who was elected, of course, as a Democrat in 2016, from Lewisburg, Ben Salengo, Democrat from Charleston, Erica Kolinish, Libertarian from Buchanan, and then Daniel P. Lutz Jr. of the Mountain Party, which is the local affiliate of the Green Party, from Charlestown. I have tried to look into Danny Lutz. It's a little bit difficult to. I do know that he is elected to a very obscure position here in West Virginia, which is like a conservation district representative, which is really good for a Green Party member to be elected to, because it's basically just being a protector of the environment in that region. So he definitely deserves the position that he's currently in. Other than that, I know that he's got some plans for like broadband throughout the state, though it's very difficult to find a lot about him because, of course, third-party candidates are shut out a lot, and West Virginia just isn't a state that people focus on enough to get enough information, even sometimes for major party candidates. Jim Justice, our current governor, for one, he's trying to take credit for helping teachers whenever there's no way that he should be getting that credit. It was the teachers striking, and only the teachers that won those victories. No one else deserves the credit for that. Just the teachers. And then, okay, so I traveled to Beckley because I'm a student at WVU Tech. He's got a sign that says, Jim Justice never gave up on coal. Yeah, okay. Good way to advertise for your opponent there, Jim. Coal is killing the world. Like, yes, coal is important to our history, and coal provided us with money. It's not going to do that ever again. Even if coal had nothing wrong with it, it does have stuff wrong with it, but if it had absolutely nothing wrong with it, it's too late. We're already transitioning to a renewable energy economy. Hopefully we can speed up that process, but we already are, meaning that coal prices are just going to continue to drop, wages are going to continue to drop, and we'll be dying. Our state will die alongside the coal industry if we stay focused on coal. So Jim Justice is effectively saying, I'm going down with this ship. And I'm not willing to go down with the ship that is coal. I want West Virginia to grow. I want West Virginia to experience an economic renaissance. West Virginia needs to be one of the most prosperous, most growth-oriented states. And if we focus on coal, that's not going to happen. Ben Salango wasn't my choice in the Democratic primary. My choice was the person who came in second place, Stephen Smith. Mr. Salango is definitely more Joe Biden than he is Bernie Sanders. In this instance, Ben Salango will be getting my vote. As for the Libertarian candidate, since I didn't really mention her or him, I don't know too much. Libertarians, their general philosophy is not something I agree with. The philosophy I agree with, their positions I don't. The way that they interpret their own philosophy is very flawed, in my opinion, and I do not want a libertarian to receive my vote, probably ever. However, I would like to see libertarians elected, because that means that third-party candidates are having more success, and we don't just have binary choices. So yeah, Ben Salango gets my vote for governor. Next is Secretary of State, between Mac Warner, the Republican from Charleston, and Natalie Tennant, the Democrat from Charleston. Okay, so I don't like either of these candidates. Mac Warner is the current Secretary of State and has done something that many Secretary of States around the nation do and definitely should not do, and that's voter purging, which is quote-unquote inactive voters being removed from being registered, which is fully ridiculous, fully stupid, and should be fully unconstitutional. But it's not, unfortunately. And then there's Natalie Tennant. She previously served as Secretary of State. During her time in the position, she did make a few mistakes that would have caused me to vote her out. However, I don't want to hold those mistakes against her, because it is a difficult job at the same time. For Secretary of State, I do believe I'm going to be voting for Natalie Tennant, but realize that it's a very unenthusiastic vote. Also, whenever she was running against Shelley Moore Capito for the senator seat in the debate in 2014? No. Let me think here. So if it's it would be 2014. Both of them said they opposed gay marriage. I believe Natalie Tennant said she was in favor of civil unions or whatever, but both of them were opposed to gay marriage in 2014. A year before the Supreme Court decided to legalize it nationwide. That's unacceptable in a lot of ways, because people deserve to marry whoever the fuck they want, or whoever the fuck they need, because it is not want-based, it is not sexual preference, it is sexual orientation. So, anyways, the least enthusiastic vote possible for Natalie Tennant. Next we have State Auditor, where we have John Mikulski, who is the Republican from Charleston, and then Mary Ann Claytor, the Democrat from St. Albans. Mary Ann Claytor is going to be receiving my vote for auditor. She is, simply put, the better candidate, who will do more to ensure that West Virginia is less corrupt, and at the same time ensuring that our budget and everything is the way it should be. With Mary Ann Claytor as auditor, I am confident that we will not have to impeach our entire Supreme Court again. For State Treasurer, we have Riley Moore, the Republican from Harper's Ferry, and John D. Perdue, the Democrat from Cross Lanes. So, John D. Perdue is a elected official who is one of the few statewide elected Democrats. Mr. Perdue is currently the treasurer and has served in this position for a very, very long time. I believe over 20 years at this point, which for some people isn't going to feel like a long time, even though it's my entire lifetime and I'm literally voting right in front of you. So yes, it is a long time. Anyways, and then Riley Moore, I believe is related to Shelley Moore and Arch Moore, of course. Riley Moore, I believe, is currently in the state legislature, and I don't trust Republicans with money. I would never trust a Republican with my money. I just wouldn't. And since this is treasurer, as a treasurer for SGA, managing a much smaller budget, I would not trust the leader of the college Republicans at my school to manage the budget, because he would pretty much refuse to fund anything because, Republicans decide not to fund things that are important. I'm all for eliminating waste and corruption, but Republican definition of waste and corruption is not accurate whatsoever. So, again, a very unenthusiastic vote for John Perdue, but it's not that difficult of a vote because Riley Moore is not going to be treasurer. I will probably never vote for a Republican as treasurer, even if I somehow end up becoming a conservative. Because conservatives should not handle money. Money is something that liberals, or moderates, or progressives should handle. End of story. Let's see here. Commissioner of Agriculture is next. We have the Republican Kent Leonhardt from Fairview, and Bob Beach, the Democrat from Morgantown. I definitely find it interesting that both of them are from Monongalia County, considering they're running for Commissioner of Agriculture. Since I associate agriculture more with the southern part of West Virginia. But anyways, I believe for this, Bob Beach is going to be getting my vote simply because a more democratic government is a better government. as I am a progressive. If I recall, none of the candidates for Commissioner of Agriculture were particularly liberal or progressive. They're all fairly moderate to conservative. But on that scale, moderate being leftist, Bob Beach would be a leftist, or moderate on a traditional scale. So that's why he would be getting my vote. Attorney General Patrick Morsi, with tons of conflicts of interest, who is the Republican from Harper's Ferry, or Sam Brown Pensonk, I've never been able to say his last name, Democrat from Edmond. This is quite an easy vote. I will be voting for Sam P. Is who I will be voting for, as he will make sure that we don't have a corrupt liar for an attorney general who decides to only sue the federal government whenever it suits his family's needs or the needs of the President of the United States. Sam Brown would actually be a good attorney general. End. Period. So, yeah. So far, I've voted all Democrat, though so far most of these elections don't even have a Mountain Party candidate. Speaking of races without a Mountain Party candidate, state senator for the 10th senatorial district. We have Jack Woodrum, the Republican from Hinton, and William Laird IV, the Democrat from Oak Hill. So, up until a few weeks ago, William Laird had a pretty good shot at getting my vote here. He probably still has the best shot, just to be clear. I'll probably still vote for him. However, he is endorsed by Fayette Fair Share. Fayette Fair Share is a local political action committee PAC that I am a member of. However, despite this endorsement, alongside many candidates I have less trepidation about voting for, Mr. Laird, there is an ad advocating that you vote for Mr. Laird, showing that he has the endorsements of various sheriffs and police unions and stuff. And this year, those unions and stuff are not endorsing candidates who... They're obviously not going to endorse anyone who supports Black Lives Matter, like me. Meaning that anyone that sheriffs endorse is either racist or turning a blind eye to racism. I'm fairly certain there's no official write-in candidates for this either. But if Fayette Fair Share felt the need to endorse Bill Laird despite these conflicts, and then that means that Jack Woodrum must be awful. So that is how I'm going to justify voting for William Laird. Just to be clear, I would put my vote for John D. Perdue slightly less difficult than this vote, and for Natalie Tennant, much harder of a decision than this vote. Then we have the first election in which we get to vote for more than one person, as there are 3 seats for this particular thing. It is House of Delegates for the 32nd Delegate District. The Republicans are Kayla Kessinger from Mount Hope, Tom Fast from Fayetteville, Austin Haynes from Oak Hill, and the Democrats are Selena Vickers from Edmond, Mark Hurt from Oak Hill, and Margaret Ann Staggers. There are no Libertarian candidates, there are no Mountain candidates, and there are places for write-ins, but I do not believe that the official list has write-in candidates for this position. I will easily be voting Selena Vickers. She is one of my favorite politicians, and is a wonderful woman who is trying to hold the West Virginia Democratic Party accountable. Margaret Ann Staggers, who is the only incumbent Democrat, and while I would say that she's kind of where Kamala Harris is in my mind, where she is halfway between a Joe Biden and a Bernie Sanders. And then there is Mark Hurt. Whenever he was running for mayor of Oak Hill, looking at his policies, understanding who he was, I did not, and learning to understand who he was, I must have really messed up in my research, because there was no way that the guy that I crafted in my head would be a Democrat. I expected Mark Hurt to be a Republican, a very conservative Republican, in fact. But he is a Democrat. What I know is Tom Fast is not getting my vote. He is homophobic and is a key member in ensuring Republican control over the House of Delegates. Kayla Kessinger is not going to be getting my vote, even though she's one of the few 100 members of the House of Delegates that responded to my mass email to all 100 of them a few years ago, because she is also in Republican Party leadership, and simply put, we do not need Republicans in control of the state legislature. And then Austin Haynes, if I remember correctly, I don't agree with his policies. I am happy that there is someone that many people that know me know and is running for this election. I just do not agree with his policies, so he will not be getting my vote. Now, I do not have to vote for 3, and honestly, I have been debating whether or not to vote for 2 or 3. For starters, Selena is definitely getting my vote, so let's fill that one in. And then Margaret Staggers is pretty easy to also vote for, since she is in that Kamala Harris area where she's not progressive, but she's also not liberal. So she's my next vote. Now, I do not know whether or not I'm going to vote for Mark Hurt. I think I am. Because he does seem like a trustworthy guy, and I do believe that he would do well. Even though I did clock him as an conservative Republican, that's likely because a lot of positions that are ultra-conservative can also be progressive depending on the approach you take to the issue at hand. That's why a lot of people didn't realize how far right-wing Trump really is, because like opposing globalism through like free trade globalism is a left-wing thing to do as well as a far-right thing to do. He just has the far right-wing approach rather than the far left-wing approach. As a result, I probably unfortunately twisted Mark's leftist policies with conservative positions, since he is a Democrat. So that is why he will be receiving my third vote. Okay, on to the back side of this. We have County Commissioner. We have Allison Ray Taylor, Republican from Fayetteville, and Denise Askew Scalf, the Democrat from Fayetteville. If I said that wrong, Allison Taylor is the Republican from Fayetteville. There is no Libertarian and no Mountain Party candidate in this election. I will be voting for incumbent Denise Scalf, as she is a good influence on the commission. I do believe that her father was previously on the commission, so there is issues that I have regarding dynasty building. However, regardless of that, it is important that we have opposition on collective bodies such as the county commission. I would never, even though, yes, I'm a progressive, I would never want a 100% Democratic government. Even if I do vote for a lot of Democrats or a lot of leftists. It would be a lot greater if I had more Mountain Party choices, but there just aren't any. Anyways, Denise Scalf will be getting my vote. For county clerk, we have Jay Brennanman, Republican from Scarborough, and Michelle Hawley, Democrat from Oak Hill. So Jay Brenneman, I believe, is an attempt to mask who Brenneman is. You see, John Brenneman is a member of the county commission. Joyce Brenneman is the one running for county clerk. I have no idea whether or not they are related. However, I have my suspicions simply due to the fact that they put a J instead of saying Joyce on the ballot, since it is the candidate's decision. Michelle Hawley is a member of the Oak Hill City Council and is a librarian. County clerk is a position that sends ballots, of course. That's why I mentioned receiving it from the county clerk earlier. However, county clerks also keep a lot of records. Michelle Hawley's job at the library is keeping records. While I would have preferred to see her do more work for the city of Oak Hill specifically, I fully understand her choice to run for this position, since she would do well in the position. And so I will be voting for Michelle Hawley. And I'm fairly certain I've so far only voted for Democrats because there are not very many other choices for leftists, unfortunately, here. Prosecuting attorney, no candidate for Republicans. Anthony Ciliberti, Democrat from Victor. No candidates for the Libertarian Party, and no candidates for the Mountain Party. So there's no choice. I believe that Anthony Ciliberti is more Joe Biden than he is Bernie Sanders, and that may even be an understatement. However, he is the only choice, and I do feel that voting for him is the right thing to do rather than skipping this. I want my vote to be present even if it isn't there. Even if, like, there's no real competition, my vote should still be there. That's how important a vote is. Even if if I received a ballot and every single position had only one candidate, I would still vote. Because that's how important a vote is. For sheriff, there is Charles Miller, Republican of Oak Hill, and incumbent Mike Friedley, the Democrat from Fayetteville. So, sheriff is another one of those things that I just don't trust Republicans to do because they're going to be racist and fuck everything up. Incumbent Mike Friedley is someone who on his website says he wants to continue the war on drugs. West Virginia is the state with the highest overdose rate. He does not understand or does not look at science if he believes that continuing the war on drugs will make the situation any better. Mike Friedley probably would have earned my vote if he didn't say he was going to continue the war on drugs. Drugs are an issue here in West Virginia. Fighting a war on them is not the answer. Treating it as a health issue, not a criminal issue, is the way to fight drug addiction. Simply put, I cannot vote for someone who is so racist and so anti-science that they would say that they would continue the war on drugs. As such, even though it's not an official write-in candidate, I'm going to write, in the space for write-in candidates, Black Lives Matter. I won't fill in the bubble, meaning I'm not technically voting for Black Lives Matter, but that's what I'm writing. Because fuck the war on drugs. Next, we have Fayette County Assessor. There is no Republican candidate. Harvey Young is the Democrat from Fayetteville. No candidates for the Libertarian Party. No candidates for the Mountain Party. Assessor is one of those positions you can't find information on if you live in West Virginia, particularly in Fayette County, where we have a lack of transparency of information. As such, I have no choice but to vote for him, I suppose. I have no reason to believe that I shouldn't vote for him for assessor. Next is for Fayette County Surveyor. Again, there is only a Democrat, Jack Buda from Oak Hill. As mentioned, there is a lack of transparency here in Fayetteville, and few people really care about information from West Virginia. So, I guess Jack is getting my vote for surveyor. Now back to president, since I skipped over that. So, as mentioned, Joe Biden will not be getting my vote, as Trump said, he lost the left in that debate. He's gaining plenty of moderates and right to still win and kick Trump out of office, so go for it. But he did lose the left. And Howie Hawkins is the Mountain Party, which is the local affiliate of the Green Party, candidate, which is traditionally the leftist alternative to the Democrats. And I certainly thought that I would be voting for the Howie Hawkins Angela Walker ticket. And I'm not going to. I'm not going to vote for Howie Hawkins. Because in the Green primary, it seems that Howie Hawkins may have broken Green Party rules and corruption was part of the process that led to his nomination. Many Green Party officials in charge of primary elections throughout the country were members of the Howie Hawkins campaign, and Howie Hawkins is also one of the co-founders of the Green Party. This is an obvious conflict of interest. One of the rules that he broke was running for a different leftist third party. I believe it was Socialist Party, and he did win the nomination. However, I do believe that it is required that Green Party candidates are registered green to run for the Green Party nomination, and also evidence of this is, of course, that he has the Socialist Party nomination, and that registered socialist Angela Walker is his vice presidential candidate. So with corruption in the Green Party and no left in sight for Joseph Biden, I turned to this list of official write-in candidates. And in this list of official presidential candidates, we have quite a few choices. Some of the people I recognize reading through it. Let's see. Gloria La Riva, who is the presidential candidate for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I also recognize Rocky de la Fuente. I've talked about him quite a bit. And if you have seen me talk about him, you know why he would not be receiving my write-in vote. And then there is Don Blankenship. He received the Constitution Party's nomination for president. And Mr. Blankenship is a convicted felon for failure to maintain mine safety protocol in one of his mines. He's a coal executive. The Constitution Party is a very, very strict constitutionalist party that should never earn a leftist vote ever. I am a constitutionalist. I'd say that the Constitution is a leftist document. But traditionally, constitutionalists are associated with the right-wing interpretation. And that's what the Constitution Party is. Not to mention, Don Blankenship is a psychopath and a racist. So yeah. The other write-in candidates I do not know as well. However, Gloria La Riva of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, hopefully it doesn't have any corruption in the party, but I would not be surprised, because small parties are easier to manipulate. But Gloria La Riva is an excellent candidate, and in all honesty, she may be better than Howie Hawkins. The only thing is Howie Hawkins, of course, has broader ballot access. I mean, his name is printed on a West Virginia ballot versus Gloria La Riva, just having her name, address, city, and state listed on a list of write-in candidates for West Virginia. Which most voters will not look at, or if they look at it, it doesn't show what political party they're from. So yeah, all those political parties, by the way, were off the top of my head for Gloria La Riva and Don Blankenship. But Gloria La Riva will be receiving my write-in vote for the presidency of the United States of America. I did look up who her vice presidential candidate, but let's go ahead and type in Gloria La Riva so I can give you more background on her. It loaded and then it didn't. Okay, there we go. Gloria La Riva, lariva2020.org. Meet the candidates, please. Okay, so Gloria La Riva. She is a labor, community, and anti-war activist in San Francisco and California. She also received this nomination she received this nomination in 2016 and also was nominated all the way back as still a socialist in 1976. She was born in New Mexico. We are now going to look at her vice presidential candidate, which is Solon Freeman, who is an activist and cultural worker, a child of parents who were workers in a refugee camp in India. He grew up in Maryland in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. He was an active participant in the anti-Vietnam War movement and had formative socialist experiences. He is a poet and essayist, that's funny, who has contributed to major literary journals. He also participated in the anti-Iraq War movement early on, in opposition to U.S. war against the U.S. blockade of Cuba for longer, since, of course, that's a little bit relaxed or maybe even eliminated at this point, and against sanctions levied by the United States against countries that he views as illegal. He is also a disability rights activist. So as you can see, Gloria and I'm from West Virginia. We don't have very many names like this. I apologize. Sun, Ill, are great candidates. So Gloria LaRiva will be my write-in candidate. And this time I do fill in the bubble next to write-in, if any, because I am trying to get my vote counted. Black Lives Matter was not a vote I wanted counted, since it doesn't really matter either way, it's going to get thrown out. But that is my ballot. So that means for president, I voted for Gloria LaRiva. For U.S. Senator, Paula Jean Swearengin. For House of Representatives, Hillary Turner. For Governor, Ben Salango. For Secretary of State, Natalie Tennant. For State Auditor, Marianne Clater. For State Treasurer, John Perdue. For Commissioner of Agriculture, Bob Beach. For Attorney General, Sam Brown P. For State Senator, William Laird IV. For House of Delegates, Selena Vickers, Mark Hurt, and Margaret Staggers. For County Commissioner, Denise Scalf. For County Clerk, Michelle Hawley. For Prosecuting Attorney, Anthony Ciliberti. For Sheriff, none with a semi-write-in of Black Lives Matter. For Assessor, Harvey Young. For Surveyor, Jack Buddha. And that is who I am voting for. I understand that many people have already voted. This is more so you know who I voted for. I'm Colby Lopez, and I approve this message.